Canada pledges more than €450 million in military support for Ukraine as President Zelensky continues his tour of North America.
Poland says it's ready to hold talks with Ukraine over grain imports only if Kyiv drops its complaint to the World Trade Organization.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky continued his tour of North America, touching down in Ottawa to meet Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. In response to Zelensky's appeal for more help to stave off Russia's invasion, Trudeau pledged more than €450 million over 3 years for 50 armoured vehicles to be built in the country. On Friday, Ukraine launched missile attacks on the headquarters of Russia's Black Sea Fleet in Crimea, annexed by Moscow in 2014. Russian authorities reported that one person was missing and that no one had been injured in the attack. On the ground, residents in Ukraine's eastern city of Kherson were left wading through the destruction after a Russian missile attack left at least 3 people dead. According to Ukrainian authorities, most of the 40 Russian missiles fired were shot down, causing debris to fall on civilian structures.
Poland says it's ready to hold talks with Ukraine about maintaining the embargo on grain imports. But in order to do so, Ukraine must drop its complaint to the World Trade Organization. The dispute about whether Ukrainian grain should be allowed to enter Polish domestic markets and other European unions has pushed the tight relationship between Kyiv and Warsaw to its lowest point since Russia's full-scale invasion last year. Polish leaders have compared Ukraine to a drowning person hurting his helper. The issue was raised during Poland's foreign minister's visit to the UN General Assembly. He says Poland's policy towards Ukraine will not change, mirroring a speech by its president, pledging full support for Kyiv, but admitting that the grain issue was a stumbling block in relations between the two countries.
Israel carried out a series of airstrikes in the Gaza Strip on Friday after Palestinian activists launched incendiary balloons into Israel. It's the latest incident in a week of violent demonstrations and clashes along Israel's front with Gaza. Palestinian health officials said Israeli fire wounded 26 Palestinians during protests along the barrier. Hamas, the militant group ruling Gaza, says youths organised the protests in response to Israeli provocations.
Those seeking better lives in Italy must now pay a deposit of almost €5,000 to avoid detention while their asylum application is examined. The measure was announced by the government on Friday, promising to generate controversy. This has been a record year for migrant arrivals in Italy. It is estimated that nearly 133,000 people have arrived in the country so far, almost double the number recorded last year and triple the number in 2021. The government says it will also increase the amount of time people could be detained, from 3 months to 18. Currently, those who apply for asylum in Italy are free to move within the country while their application is reviewed. Human rights groups have attacked the move, saying they're looking to make detention the norm for those fleeing war and poverty.
Fires swept across Sicily on Friday, spurred on by the high temperatures and winds in the Mediterranean. At least 2 people died as flames surrounded the capital of the Italian island, Palermo, and a university campus in the city had to be evacuated when the fire threatened to destroy one of the buildings. Several roads around the city were closed. The blaze was later brought under control by emergency services. World leaders at the United Nations have approved an ambitious plan to combat tuberculosis over the next 5 years. The target includes reaching 90% of people with TB prevention and care services, providing support to all people with the disease, licensing a new vaccine, and closing funding gaps by 2027. Ahead of the meeting, WHO's Director General officially launched an accelerator council to facilitate the development, licensing, and use of new TB vaccines.